Hello, this is Jared from Commit to Quality, and today we're going to go over how we can create Playwright tests without writing any code. It's not a new concept, however, if it's used correctly, it can be extremely useful to every developer or test engineer or whatever your job title is. Playwright has its own tool called CodeGen or Test Generator, and that's what you can see on the screen now. It allows us to record our actions that we perform on a web page and then turn that into reusable test code. Before we jump into any code or actually actioning this, I do want to state, even though it's a very easy and quick way to create automated UI tests via Playwright, it's not recommended that you use only the code generator to create your Playwright scripts. If you did do that, you're going to hit problems where your code becomes unmaintainable, and it's more likely that it'll break a lot of best practices, and it's probably not going to adhere to the standards you might have in your company. Not to mention as well, you may not have a solid understanding of your tests, so eventually this could cause you more problems. I will give praise to Playwright on this tool though. It tries to find the best locator, the one that has the most stability, and it can be useful to help with understanding how to perform certain actions. If you wanted to know how to do a double click on the page, you can literally double click something and it'll give you the action you need to do that. The documentation is really well authored as well, so have a look through this and you see what you can do, all the different things. But I want to jump right into this and show you how we can actually start generating our scripts. Before we do that, I do have a video on the VsCode Extension that shows you how you can do it via that. I'll put a link in the description and something on the screen right now so you can go look that way. This way is using the CLI and the test generator tool coming from this. Let's jump into VS Code. Awesome. So I'm inside VS Code. I already have a test spec created and I've just named the test CodeGen for now. Now in command line, all we have to do to load up the test generator tool, or the code generator, depending what you want to call it, is type npx playwright CodeGen. If I hit enter on this, we should see the Playwright inspector opens up. It doesn't load any URL or anything for us because we haven't passed that through. All I've said is I want to open up the test generator tool. Okay, so that's loaded, and what you can see is we have our blank browser, but we don't have anything entered yet because all I've said is open up the tool. You can see the code generator is already creating this test script for us, and it's already in record mode, which means anything I do now in this browser is going to be picked up. So let's go to the computer database website. If I go to that, what you can see already is it's generated that goto command, so await page goto and the database. Now what I can do is I can click into this, I can add a new computer. What you see in the background is this add-in things. If I click into this, I'll put the name as commit quality, introduce date, we'll say 2010 0101, and we'll do the same here, 2010 0101. Missed out, and that's a good thing to show you actually because I missed this out. Do 0101. It's going to pick up these changes for us, and I'm going to choose a company, which we'll just choose Apple as the first, and we'll click create this computer. Okay, cool, and that computer's been added. So now if I go back over to the inspector, we can see everything I've done. So it's getting the page by role, it's clicking add new computer, it's detected that we change into a different URL. So it's even adding an assertion into here for us saying assert that we're on the correct URL, which is the new computer page. As you can see, I was clicking through things. So I was clicking on the computer name text box. Then I pressed caps lock. Then I started filling things in. And what you're going to see here, it's a bit messy, right? Because I've done a bunch of different things like hitting caps lock and then filling in something, hitting caps lock again. It's picking up all of these, whereas in reality I could just say .fill, commit quality all as one word, and I wouldn't need this caps lock information in. It has literally picked up everything I have done. Getting by label, it's clicked into it, but we know from our previous Playwright tests that we've created, we don't need to click into a text box. We can just say fill and enter it in. But it's cool because it's showing us everything we want to do. Here, it's selected the option of 1. Now, you might actually have something that says you want to select by the label text. So instead of saying 1, I could change this to say, I want to select by the label of Apple Inc. What Playwright has done is it's tried to say, let's use the more stable, but this is what I was talking about, where it might not always pick up what you exactly want the code to do. Still great though. If I click the drop down here, what we can see is you can generate it in all the different bindings that Playwright comes in. So we are using the test runner, so we'll keep it as that. But if you wanted it for Java or Python or .NET C#, you can do that as well. And you can you can change the code. So if I click on PyTest, you'll see that it's now created this Python code for me. If I go back to test runner, this is the one we want. I can, of course, stop the recording as well, and I can start playing around in this. I could say filter by commit quality, hit filter by name, and what we're seeing is it hasn't generated anything because it's not recording. We also have the option of exploring things, so maybe I just want to use this inspector to get, say, the locator of something. I can click on it, and you see it's generated here. It's really good, really useful, and you can just copy that out and put it into your test code. If I want to start re-recording, I can do that. I can click record, and it'll start off wherever I am on the page. I'm going to stop that a moment. Of course, the play, the pause, and the step over is all covered via the debugging purposes. So previous videos, we used the page.pause command, and that's what loads up. If you remember with this, it loads this up, and you can step over it. It's all part of the inspector tool. So what I can do now, I could either copy everything by clicking this, but I've already got my test, I've got my name, so I'm just going to copy the actual body of the test code. Okay, and we can clear it, we can redo it, so I've copied it. Let's put it into Visual Studio Code first to make sure it's all gone through as expected. Okay, I haven't added my page fixture, so let's put that in, and that should fix these issues. Oh, and we need to import the expect, of course. So let's that add in. So we save that. So we know we've got all that test code, but before I close this down, what I can do is I can clear. And it puts me back to this state where I have everything I need to do again, and I could start recording. So I could record a completely new test here, paste it into my VsCode solution, and we're good to go. So in this case, I'm just going to close these because I'm happy with what I have. And now it's as simple. I can just say npx playwright test, and that'll run through exactly what I've asked it to. So we should see that this test passes, and it's got through all the steps without me actually writing any code. There we go. It passed, working all fine. Like I said, I could change all this, so I'm not going to go into it in too much detail, but this is where you start to question how much you really want to use your code gen tool. Is I don't need to click any of those, I just need to fill in commit quality. So I could do this, and I could rerun the test, and I expect it all to still pass, because all I'm saying is get the text box by the label, and then just fill in commit quality of what I need, instead of taking all those steps that a user would take. Awesome. Obviously you can see this, you can play around with this and change it. Like say, I wanted to touch on these little things that make it a good tool, but also makes you think that I can use this, but I need to be careful and I'll have to refactor some of the code. Now, there's more options we can pass to this, which is what I want to focus on in this video. So we just saw I created a test which opened up the inspector, but it didn't load up the web page. Now we can say, open up the code generator tool on a web page by saying npx playwright code gen. Oh, I need to spell playwright correctly. Playwright code gen. And then you can pass what you want the URL to be. So if I say this and hit enter, which is the computer database, what we should see now is the inspector, the code generator tool, will open up, and the browser will automatically be on that URL that I have just specified. Let me just drag over the inspector. So here we go. It's loaded up, and already, without me having to enter anything in, it's already said, right, I'm going to convert that to the page.goto method and pass through the URL that I just entered. So we could do exactly the same stuff here within record mode, so we can do what we want. I'm going to close this down because that's what I wanted to show. The next thing I want to do is touching on different options as well. So a really useful one might be you want to emulate a viewport size you want and go to that website, and you can do that quite easily. Let me clear this. We can say npx playwright test. I can say -- viewport, and I should be able to say whatever I want the size to be. So viewport size equals, and let's just make it something small. So I'll say 600 by 600. And on top of that, I can still pass through the URL I want to go to. So let's say that computer database website again. So now what should happen is it should load up the browser for me, and it should generate what I want the viewport size to do and provide the code for that as well. We have that's not worked because I've said npx playwright test. But of course, I'm loading this up as the code generator, so it needs to be npx playwright code gen. Hit enter on that, and we should see that the test will load up in the computer with the computer database website as the URL, and we should have some code generating the 600 by 600 viewport. So we'll drag it over. We can see here now it's a lot smaller. It's 600 by 600, and what we can see is we have that code of saying test.use, which is overriding the config values, and it's saying the height should be 600, width should be 600. So I could copy this into my tests and I could rerun it, and that is how it would load. I'm not going to copy it in because we've seen that, and it's just simple as copy that and then paste it in. Great. So I hope this has given you an understanding of how easy it is to get started with Playwright, even if you don't have any coding knowledge. If your company maybe need to just rush some automated tests out, some kind of quick and dirty tests, you could use this. You could trust it. You could even regenerate your tests if they fail, if you didn't have that knowledge yet. It's just a good base understanding of how you can trial different things. So I've shown you the viewport. I've shown you how you can just open it up and on its own, and you can open it up to a given URL, how to copy things out. There's a lot more things you can do, so you can do things like changing color themes, preserving authentication state, which I'm going to talk about in a future video. I'll show you how to do that in the CodeGen tool, and directly in code itself. It'll be pretty much the same, but either way you want to do it. You can see all the documentation for this basically. It's really straightforward, really nice. So if I just open that back up, here we've got the viewport. Here we've got simulating a device size you want. Talked about the color scheme. It's really easy. You can just pass through these arguments. It's nice and simple to handle, and that's what I like about this code generator. Okay, one thing I do want to do before I end this video is quickly show you how you can record from using the page.pause command. I know we talked about debugging and having that in a future video, but I think it'll be worth showing how you can record just from in here. Now, like I've said, if you have the Playwright Test extension, you can do that in the extension, which I've already linked. But if you want to do it directly from the test, let's try it. I'm going to say await page.pause here. We already have our test, so I can say npx playwright test. Just for the fun of it, we'll add the debug attribute so it stops immediately. Okay, so we've got the test stopped here. I'm just going to continue over so it hits the page.pause. Here we are. So we stopped at this point. Now, what if I say I just want to record from this point? Well, it's simple. You can click the record button and you can go through. You can do what we want. So if I was to click cancel, that's exactly what it's going to do. And as you'll see, it's created this new kind of test for us that's saying get by row, cancel, and click it, waiting for the URL to change. It's even showing us that we can close the context of things. It's actually set up that we're in the Chromium browser, but in this case we only needed this code. But it's that easy to record on it. We can see all the actions down below that's happened. This will be going more into a kind of a debugging video, but it's just show how easy it is to record from this point of view as well and copy whatever we need out of it. So let's close that down, and that should cover the code generation tool. Of course, if you do have any questions, please drop a comment down below. A like and subscribe is always appreciated, and have a good day.